Hello, Hackintoshers everywhere! Ever since I revealed my Radeon VII graphics card, you've been asking me, when are you going to put it in your Hackintosh? Well, the release version of macOS 10.14.5 is upon us, and so today I swap out my trusty AMD RX 580 for my brand new Radeon 7. I've waited weeks to do this, so let's get this party started. Welcome back. I'm going to take my time with this, as there are a lot of things that I've done that will be of interest to everyone who's at my Hackintosh pay grade and below. I think they are really cool, and it was exciting to learn and implement because we all want the smoothest running computing experience with the least amount of grief, especially when doing interim updates as well as the big point upgrades. I'm not insane about using all the latest techniques. A stable hack is a stable hack, and I just sort of leave it alone when I get it. But having an optimized Hackintosh provides a sense of accomplishment. Now, this is not a tutorial video, or it would be 18 hours long. I will touch on the changes I made and leave links below to where you can learn more about the changes I made. First of all, let's recap what's in this fractal R5 case. The processor is an i7-7700K overclocked to 4.8 gigahertz. The motherboard is a Gigabyte Z170X Gaming 3 that had the BIOS updated so I could run a Kaby Lake processor. The cooler is a Corsair H80i V2 AIO. The GPU is the aforementioned RX 580, and the power supply is an EVGA 750 GQ 80 gold modular. Whew! The upgrade to macOS 10.14.5 went jolly well. The SM BIOS is 18.3, the natural one for this setup. The only problem is that 18.3 has no native support for Vega GPUs, but we're going to try it and see what happens. I will keep the iGPU QuickSync helper turned on. If this setup does not work, then we'll move on to the next strategy, and that is to change SM BIOSes. SM BIOS 19.1 and 19.2 represent the two new top-of-the-line iMacs, which, as you can see, support Vega cards, the Vega 48 and the Vega 20, respectively. And why the hell is Apple still pushing those Fusion drives? Dreadful pieces of shit. Apple should be using SSDs at these prices anyway. Hence, why we Hackintosh? But the concern is that Hackintosh wisdom indicates that you should try to match the SM BIOS with the CPU you're using to engage Intel's power management features. Obviously, my 4-core, 8-thread 7700K is neither the i9 9900K with 8 cores and 16 threads, nor the i7 8700K with 6 cores and 12 threads. They are both Coffee Lake processors, which are just extended Kaby Lake processors, so power management might not be a problem. If the 18.3 SM BIOS does not work with the Vega, then I'll be trying the 19.2, which I think makes the most sense from a processor management perspective, but what the hell do I know? Will using the wrong SM BIOS blow up your computer? I don't know, but it has never happened to me. Finally, if 18.3, 19.1, and 2 don't work, then there is always the iMac Pro 1.1 SM BIOS. The iMac Pro includes Vega support, but these are Xeon processors. Nothing like my 7700K, though I'm prepared to hear from someone telling me I'm wrong. One thing I'm not wrong about is that the Xeons do not have iGPUs and therefore no QuickSync. All encoding and decoding is done through the Vega GPUs, and very quickly, I might add. I have no idea what kind of power management issues using the iMac Pro 1.1 SM BIOS will create. But, I mean, we'll find out over time. So, that's what we're going to be doing together. But before I start all this, I want to make sure my config plist and kexts were all up to date and the EFI directory free of useless files. First thing I did was back up my boot drive and copied the EFI folder to a USB thumb drive. Then I updated the kexts and Clover bootloader using Kext Updater. Great app. I love this thing. Now, I'm a vanilla guy and I keep all kexts in the Kext Other folder. There are two more things I wanted to talk about, and they are, as of Mojave, it's been pretty much mandatory to set up a more permanent USB port assignment solution. I don't even know if people are making those kext to patch USB port limit fixes anymore, but they were a pain before Mojave because you always had to wait for them to come. And it's time you rolled your own, girls. There are two ways I've tried to do it. One method was Rehab Man's, which was thorough but complicated, and another one that uses USBMap command. I found USBMap much easier to use, but both are time-consuming, but the results are worth it, as your port assignments don't blow up every time you do an OS update. Another way you can make your Hackintosh feel like a Mac. Links below. The second thing I did was updated the way I enabled QuickSync. This was a new surprise for me. Is that redundant? Anyway, I had old patches, GFX0 to iGPU and PegP to GFX0, but the whatever green kext removed that requirement, so I disabled them. Then I read that putting in the values in devices for Intel GFX and adding an IG platform ID in the graphics section in Clover Configurator was not optimal. It was also recommended that I turn off Inject Intel. The solution was to create my own iGPU device properties using Hackintool, generate the XML code snippet, and then insert it into my config plist manually. I just used the text mode in Clover Configurator to do that. After a restart, you can check using IO Registry Explorer. See it right there? Or Hackintool. I see you, iGPU acceleration is enabled. You can't hide from me. This seems like a whole lot of bother, but this is a more permanent solution. Once again, links below. This video represents my best whack at getting the Radeon VII working. This is not an expert video, but a bumbling along together journey. I look forward to the advice from much smarter people in the comments below, and I'll happily make a new video featuring them. That being said, this is not a support forum. There are many great forums out there, such as Insanely Max, the Hackintosh subreddit, Tony Mac, and the Facebook Hackintosh group. If you leave a question, you will just have to hope that someone else will answer it. I'm sorry, I'm not answering it. I will gang my benchmarks and test results into one report so we can compare apples to zebra mussels. My test suite included Luxmark, Galaxy, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and my personal Final Cut Pro test. No Geekbench because I don't think it works anymore. No Cinebench because I'm tired of watching the same fucking 3D animation. And no Valley or Heaven because for some reason they're crashing. Couldn't figure out why. I've already done the RX 580 tests, and now it's time to install my Radeon VII. I am going to do an unboxing. I apologize. I know they used to be a staple in the YouTube video realm, and have gotten very boring. But, I'm going to do this anyway. Just a quick one. There's even channels that made their success through unboxing and included unboxing in their name. But I think unboxings have run their course. Oh, there we go. The smell of protective plastic. This thing is heavy. Wow, No plastic. Well, the fans are plastic. There you go. There's the classic YouTube close-up, right? Oh, I'm supposed to put my hand behind it like those mega YouTube makeup stars. Radeon logo, I'm sure, will light up. Okay, enough talking. Time for the swap and the performance tests. God damn it, I always forget to pull out the cable at the back. Okay, I'm back, and testing is done. Well, testing is never really done, I don't think, because there's still going to be more testing required to make this work. The conclusion is that I have no conclusion. It's kind of sort of working. Am I completely thrilled about what's happening with my Radeon 7? Well, no, not really, but I can see that maybe either it's my platform, that's a problem, or I haven't set something correctly, that's the problem, or we have to wait for another update to the macOS, and that will solve my issues here. Or there's many cleverer people, more cleverer people up there who will leave me some kind of comment that will lead me into the right direction. But these are the results of the testing. First of all, it's unusual. It's kind of weird. The bottom line is it looks like the Radeon 7 card works, and it works across the entire operating system except for Final Cut Pro. I don't get it. That is the weirdest thing. Now, the operating system recognizes it, and I've got all these different little tools that show me that, oh yes, the Radeon 7 is there. It's working right there. You can see it's churning away, and it works really well in other applications except for Final Cut Pro. Except the punchline is that under SM BIOS, iMac Pro 1.1, it smokes. It is it's hot. The speed, and I'll talk to you about that a little bit later. But let's start from the top. So first of all, let's start with the 580. I'm running SM BIOS 18.3, and the Luxmark score was 13,700 and something or other. My Galaxy's gigaflops came to 2,500. Rise of the Tomb Raider, 76 frames per second, but a ridiculous percentage between high and lows of 82%. I could see the game stutter every once in a while. So that's where that came from. Final Cut Pro H.264 test came to 6 minutes and change, and the QuickTime H.264 was 22 seconds. When I plugged in my Radeon 7, didn't change any of the settings at 18.3, SM BIOS 18.3. The Luxmark score went up to over 50,000. Galaxy's gigaflop test went to 3,451. Clearly, it shows that Radeon 7 graphics card is working. You can see it's working. Rise of the Tomb Raider went from 76 frames per second up to over 100. So clearly, the card is being recognized, even with the 18.3 SM BIOS, which has nothing to do with the Radeon 7 card. So that's good news. Final Cut Pro H.264 test, unfortunately, that's the first hint of stinkiness. Especially it relates to me because I want it to work with Final Cut Pro. That's really why I bought the card for. Exactly the same number, 6 minutes and 9 seconds. I started testing Final Cut Pro render to ProRes 422, just because I thought, oh, what's going on here? That came to 4 minutes and 27 seconds, and QuickTime was the same because QuickTime uses QuickSync from the Intel processor. Then I tried the iGPU graphics off, so turning off QuickSync. The Luxmark score was the same. Galaxy test was the same. Rise of the Tomb Raider, the same. Final Cut Pro H.264 was so long I just stopped it. I didn't want to do it anymore. Final Cut Pro ProRes went from 427 to 6 minutes and 50 seconds. QuickTime went from 21 seconds to 1 minute and 51 excruciating seconds. Then I did some testing using 19.2 and 19.1 SM BIOSes, but it became very clear very quickly that it's exactly the same as the 18.3 SM BIOSes. It made no sense to just try to grind my way through that, but I did enough of them to realize that all these are basically the same. These this blue and this green category. But when I went to the iMac Pro 1.1 SM BIOS, the Luxmark was the same. Rise of the Tomb Raider actually fell down to under 100 frames per second, and it was way choppier. Final Cut Pro H.264 encoding dropped from 6 minutes down to 2 minutes and 22 seconds. This is the kind of action. This is the sizzle that I bought the Radeon VII for. So clearly, it's in there. It's just not available at my preferred SM BIOS. So something weird is going on there. ProRes rendering went down to 2 minutes and 28 seconds from 4 minutes and 27 seconds. QuickTime, 24 seconds. So about the same as QuickSync rendering. Now, this is not using QuickSync at all. So clearly, there is goodness here. I just want to be able to get it. I am not that comfortable with the rest of the performance and moving out of my comfort SM BIOS zone because, like I said in my video, this is where it wants to be. It wants to be at 18.3. Yeah, there might not be any issues running it at 1.1, but then I'd have to update iMessages and all that nonsense, and I'd rather not. So I think someone is going to have a solution with this because clearly everything is working except for Final Cut. I don't know what's going on. So now let's take a look at the CPU and GPU utilization that got us these results. This is the original RX 580. You can see that the GPU utilization is very, very high. CPU is just sort of loafing along because the QuickSync technology in the Intel processor has taken over, and I'm getting a frequency of 0.39. I'd love to find out from any of you watching what kind of frequency you're getting. I don't even know if this is good, bad, indifferent, or just unhappy. I have no idea. So, maybe you can leave a message. So here's an example of the CPU and GPU utilization with the Radeon 7 after I put it in without any kind of adjustments. Final Cut Pro, H.264 rendering. What you can see here is that the Radeon 7, which is recognized, you can see that the OS is recognizing it. It's underutilized. The CPU is doing pretty much nothing, same as before. The QuickSync is humming along at its usual 0.38 frequency, but that's it. And clearly, Radeon 7 is not getting hammered the same way that the RX 580 was being hammered in the previous example. And that's why I came up with 6 minutes and 9 seconds, exactly the same as with the 580. That was super disappointing. So then I tried with the iGPU off. Okay, and this is what I got here. We got full utilization from the CPU. The Radeon card was doing even less, lazy bastard. And you can see that everything was maxing out, 4.8 gigahertz. The temperature was 81 degrees. Not too bad. I mean, it's within range. But the time was so horrible that I just turned it off. It was gruesome and grueling, and I didn't want to put myself through it. So that was really weird. Now, let's go to 1.1, which is right here. Very, very interesting. This is the iMac Pro SM BIOS 1.1. We've got very little CPU, it's loafing along. It's just doing its thing. But the Radeon card, Radeon 7 card, is now really taking the load. Here, this is when I got my timing of 2 minutes and 22 seconds, which was brilliant. Thank you very much for watching my journey. I'm sorry I didn't reach my destination. Hopefully with help from people online, maybe you've got a solution, or maybe I've got to wait for Apple's next OS update. But I know I'm going to get there. On the other hand, maybe a whole bunch of you who know better will tell me, oh, just use the iMac Pro SM BIOS. Who cares? Nothing's going to happen. Well, then, maybe I will do that. But, I don't want to update my iMessages and all that stuff. I've got it working really nicely in 18.3. But you got to do what you got to do. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate the time you've spent with me. So long, Hackintoshers. I'm sure I'll have another video on this soon. Bye.